Welcome to the Salty Life Podcast.
We are your hosts, Paul and Sav, entrepreneurs, parents, business owners, and yes, Christians.
Getting salty has a few different meanings in our culture, some good and some not so good.
We are here to help you add some of that good saltiness to your life by giving advice based off of our own experiences
And mistakes.
and providing you with some practical solutions to navigating this crazy world.
Let's get salty.
Welcome back to the Salty Life Podcast with Paul and Sav. It's been a little bit,
4 months.
so only 4 months since our last episode, but we are going to be getting back into this, and we're excited.
Life's been a little busy.
Yeah, it has been a little bit busy, so we were going to kind of do a little bit of an update to kind of let you know what we've been up to. I guess we'll start with that. So do you have any big news for us, Savannah?
I mean, I think most people that follow us already know, but I got my real estate license, and that was pretty time consuming over the last few months.
Well, congratulations on that.
Paul finally wore me down.
So how many years did it take to wear you down?
10.
Only 10 years?
Only 10 years. Yeah, it only took 10 years, and here we are.
All right.
I'm officially licensed and dangerous.
And you're so glad that you did, right? After it was all said and done.
Absolutely. I feel like you tricked me, though.
How so?
Because you're like, oh, you'll never have to take a client or write a contract or do anything. It'll just be great for you to have it for like security reasons and for the office. And I think you knew that I would get my license and be like, well, I want to do that. I don't want to give it all to you. I want to do it.
So, but I agreed from
me.
the very, very beginning that you did not have to take a client. You didn't have to do anything.
Yeah,
So,
you did. He did. But here we are.
Here we are. Can't go back now, right?
So, new challenge. Paul and I are in a competition.
What's the competition?
I'm totally kidding. I was going to say we were competing to see who could do the most
Oh, okay.
real estate this year, but you're already, I would have to like really, really hustle and not do anything else to catch up with you because you're having a great year as it is.
Well, you are competitive, so I wouldn't mind.
I am a little competitive, but anyways, so yes, so I got my real estate license and, we did the holidays, which were wonderful. We took the kids on a nice vacation, did all the things. And yeah, like I feel like the year started yesterday and we're already almost through the first quarter, which is absolutely insane. Don't you agree?
Yeah, it's almost April. It's
Crazy.
basically springtime, and yeah, spring break is over, so here we are.
Texas has been trying to kill me for the past month, and that's going to continue. Allergy season is great.
Yeah, I hear it's bad. It doesn't affect me as
Yeah,
much.
Paul has
thankfully.
no allergies. He doesn't understand what an advantage it is to wake up in the morning and feel great every day.
I think it's because I grew up on a farm, so I grew up just breathing in dust on a daily basis.
Possibly.
So
Anyways, so what's new with you? What's your new, like, since the last time we did the podcast? We launched the workbook. That was a big thing.
yeah, we did the goal planning workbook. So, but I got to
Yeah.
give you most of the credit on that.
We've got some great feedback from that.
Yeah. So that's been good. Like you said, work has been busy. So had some big commercial transactions.
Yeah.
That took a lot of faith to get through, but we got through and got them closed.
A
So
lot of
I was
faith.
excited about that. What else?
I mean, the workbook, real estate license. I think probably the biggest change is that I'm going to be like more involved in real estate now and taking clients and working alongside you. What? Why are you laughing? He's so happy when I say that.
So you're admitting that you're going to take clients now,
I mean, I might as well.
so I can retire.
No, I am still doing hair. By the way, I am not retiring from that just yet. I still got some good old years in me yet. My body can handle it a little bit longer, I think.
Well, the
So-
master plan was for me to retire from doing real estate. So it's coming to fruition now. I'm going to be able to just to step
Oh, you're
back
just going to
and-
retire and I'm going to do everything?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not that progressive.
Oh, okay.
I'm not that kind of gal. I think you know. Anyways, so those are some like quick updates, but we really want to talk about something a little bit different today. Something that's in the news, and being in the real estate profession as long as I have for so long now, for like 2 months, I feel like I have so much knowledge to share.
Well, you have listened to me talk about real estate on a daily basis for 10 or 12 years now. So.
I will say probably 50% of my hair clients are actually agents and brokers from all different agents, like all different brokerages and stuff over the Houston area. So I do get to hear a lot about real estate. A lot of friends are brokers and agents as well. And then obviously I'm married to one of the best brokers and agents, right? So I get to hear and have gotten the privilege of hearing about real estate for the past 10 years. And so I feel like I know a little bit more than most people that are just coming into the industry, but there is there's everything's kind of being shook up right now. And there's a lot of talk and a lot of fear mongering, I think, within the industry, like in the news outlets and things like that. So I was going to kind of interview Paul today and ask him questions and have him explain what's going on at like an elementary level so we can all understand it. Are you up for that?
I'll do my best to explain things at an elementary level.
Okay, so first things first, what happens when there's a class action lawsuit?
Well, I'm not an attorney, but I think it means a large group of people think they've been wrong, so they group together, and a group of lawyers represents them to give them more power going after someone for damages.
Okay.
And the settlements tend to be massive. The
settlements tend to be massive, which I'd like to add that the lawyers usually take a huge cut of that settlement, correct?
Yeah. I watched Aaron Brockovich again.
Yeah, I love that movie.
Like a month ago, I just randomly, but I mean, I think the lawyers take at least 50%, if not more. And then, in the class action lawsuit, I believe, and I'm kind of shooting from the hip here, but, there's thousands of homeowners that were supposedly wronged. And so when they get their half and then you divide it up amongst the thousands and thousands of homeowners that were, damaged, then they're getting pennies basically. And then the attorneys are getting millions upon millions of dollars. So
yeah. So just keep that in mind as we start to discuss what else is happening right now, and listen with an open mind, because I've talked to a lot of people about what's going on, and there's a lot of different opinions and thoughts and explanations, and a lot of them are wrong and do not really explain it well. Would you agree, Paul?
Yeah. I mean, I think everyone, there's a lot of people that are just misinformed. People love to latch onto a headline. Doesn't matter what it is. And the news is only going to put out the absolute worst of the worst when it comes to headlines, right?
Yeah.
So you got to take everything with a grain of salt.
Yeah. And so we have X, formerly known as Twitter, and TikTok, which is kind of crazy right now with all the things that are, there's a lot of, I'm not going to use the word misinformation. There's a lot of people that are very not educated on the subject, spewing stuff. They are misinformed because they're just kind of ignorant to what's really going on and what's really happening.
Well, but again, if you listen to what the mainstream media says, they make these, ridiculous headlines just to capture attention, right? And people latch onto that one line and they just repeat it over and over again, and they have no clue what they're talking about. So that's kind of where we're at with this right now, amongst a lot of other things. So.
Okay, so I would like to share a couple of things that I think that, just a couple of facts. Okay, true or false?
Okay.
Commissions with a real estate agent are always negotiable.
Well, yeah, but...
No, just answer true or false.
Oh, true. I can't expound, though?
Not in a minute, you can expound.
Okay. True. They're always negotiable. True. Yes.
Okay. True or false? Up until now on HAR or the MLS, you were allowed to disclose what the commission would be.
Yes. It was actually one of the rules that you had to disclose what the commission would be.
You're not good at this game.
Okay. Sorry. True. True statement.
Okay. True or false? Typically, the seller pays both sides of the commission.
Typically true.
Okay. Now now you don't have to say true or false.
Okay.
Okay. When we bought our first house, how did our agent get paid as first-time home buyers?
I can go into a little bit of depth now.
You can go into some depth now.
Okay. So like every other house on pretty much any other MLS, the seller was offering 3% for any agent that could bring them a buyer. And so at closing, our agent was paid the 3% from the seller.
Okay. Now, when we have sold our properties since then, because we've moved a couple of times and we've sold some properties, who did we have to pay, or who did we agree to pay?
Well, yeah, we always offered a commission on the MLS to any buyer's agent that could bring us a ready, willing, and able buyer.
Okay, so typically standard practice, which is not required, but it's kind of just standard practice.
Because it makes sense.
Because it makes sense, has been to offer a buyer's agent, like if you're selling a property, it's to offer a buyer's agent a commission to bring you a buyer. So they're bringing the buyer, they're representing the buyer, they're doing what's best in the buyer's interest, but the seller pays them at closing, correct?
Correct. And in return, they get a good buyer for their property. And it makes their property very attractive to the vast majority of buyers.
Okay. Does this lawsuit change that?
No.
Why did you hesitate?
I mean, because everyone on the news and social media is saying this is changing everything. Everything will be different from now on forever and ever.
Okay. But the problem is that it's not really changing. It's just there's less transparency, correct?
Well, yeah, I think that's the big ironic thing is I was listening to another broker, and I cannot remember her name, out of North Carolina, but she was talking about, you want to talk about fair housing, right? Everyone being equal. Mm-hmm. Then what's more equal than the compensation being listed out publicly? And then it doesn't matter what color your skin is, what religion you are, who you want to marry. If you bring a buyer, you get paid this amount, and it's all out in the open for everyone to see. So we're actually going to take that away now in the name of fairness.
So let me ask you this. So with this law, or this, I don't even want to say law because it's
settlement.
not a law, this settlement that's coming out.
Which still hasn't even been approved by the courts yet.
Yeah.
So we're assuming that
it's going to happen.
The courts are going to approve the agreement.
So in this settlement, what does this mean for somebody who's going to go and purchase a property now? Like, what is changing for them?
So probably the biggest thing is that, I mean, I guess probably not a whole lot. I mean,
so there is one main thing that is changing. They will now have to sign a buyer's rep agreement up front before seeing any house. So prior to this, it was best practice to go ahead and have somebody sign a buyer's rep agreement before you showed them a house. But a lot of people didn't want to do that. They might not feel comfortable. They wanted to kind of test run, see if they liked you, right? Mm-hmm. So a lot of agents did not make the client do that before seeing the first house. But after that, they're like, hey, if you want me to keep showing you houses, keep opening doors, I need to get a buyer's representation agreement, which protected the agent and the buyer, right?
Yeah. And the reason the reason I missed that question is because I don't want to say major brokerage, but every responsible broker required all their agents to have a buyer's rep agreement anyway.
Yes, so but now it's going to be required.
Well, now it's going to be a law that
by
you
the
have
federal
to
government.
do it.
Like you have to. You don't have a choice.
Before you open one single door. So,
yes. So that is the biggest thing that's changing for buyers. The other thing that is changing is that in that buyer's representation agreement, if you have an agent, if you're going to show a house that's not offering a commission, then you're going to have a lot of agents that are saying, okay, well, if you buy a house that's not offering a commission to the buyer's agent, then you're going to have to pay me, right?
Yeah. And without jumping ahead too much, but like a lot of times in commercial real estate, so in commercial real estate, there is no MLS, there is no published commission. So the first thing you do on a commercial deal is you call the other agent and say, hey, what are you guys offering on commission for this property? And then it goes into the contract. And so, it's a lot of times commercial.
But there does have to be a lot of trust within the commercial agents, right? Because they could tell you up front, we're offering 2% or 3%. And then you get down to the contract and they may be like, oh no, I never said that,
Well, you get it in writing. You typically get it in writing, but then again, it goes on the contract that everyone signs. So the commission is just right out there in the open. So, that's not the worst. That's probably a good thing, right? That everyone sees the commission.
So this is a positive thing that you see coming out of this settlement, is that now everyone's going to have to be really upfront with all of that.
I think that's probably a good thing. Yes. it's just, again, we had a system where the commissions were all published where literally anyone could look at it, and we're taking that away.
Which makes not any sense at all.
So now, I mean, my fear is I think most agents are very ethical and probably wouldn't do this, but you want to talk about fair housing, the commission's published, you have to pay the certain amount. Now you're taking this away, making it less transparent. So what if a listing agent tells their seller they're offering a certain amount, and then they don't like this agent for whatever reason, they offer them less or offer them no commission just to get them to go away? Well, how do you prove that?
Yeah.
It's very difficult, right?
So, okay. So there's the two parts of this that are basically changing. So they cannot publish the percent that they're paying or offering to the buyer's agent online on the MLS.
On the MLS.
So only on the MLS. And
anywhere else they can.
Yes. And you now have to have a buyer's rep agreement before showing any house.
Before you open the first door. Yes.
Now, I think it would be really important to explain to consumers, like people that are listening, some of the reasons it's important to have an agent, because a lot of people are like, oh, I can just go do this myself. So there's a lot of things that we're like, oh yeah, we could do that ourselves, but we still pay somebody else that's a professional that does it every day because we want it done right and we want to be protected. So this is something that I just found out, which I thought was really interesting. If I go open, let's say I have a buyer's rep agreement with someone stating that, I'm going to represent them, and I show them a house that is not offering a commission, and something happens. If I'm not getting paid, our E&O insurance does not cover it. Is that correct?
100%.
How is that good for the consumer?
No, it's insane. I mean, but that's why.
And a lot of people don't know what E&O insurance is. Can you kind of explain like a scenario where that would cover if something happened?
Yeah, I mean, it's errors and omissions insurance. So if something happens while the agent's on the property, or a client is on the property, like I think one example, and we hardly ever claim on it, thankfully, and the deductible is very, very high. But I heard an agent, like, I think they left the door open when they showed a house. The house got vandalized. Somebody's got to pay for that, right?
Yeah.
That's what the broker's E&O insurance is for, is to cover those examples.
So now if you have an agent that's working with a buyer and you're not offering a commission on that, and they go show the property and they're not getting paid, then the E&O insurance would not cover it, correct? If something happened. Yeah,
what's going on your homeowners. Or you can go try to sue the agent, and good luck, I guess.
Interesting. That's just, it seems like what this is doing, it's opening up a lot of problems that weren't there before.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think we had a pretty good system. And I don't want to get too political, but some people just, anything that seems to work pretty well, people want to just change it, right? And there's 99% of brokers and agents are very ethical and do the right thing. There was very, very few bad apples, I think, that, without getting into it, caused some of this. And again, if you're selling your house and making a lot of money on the transaction, are you really being wronged, I guess, or being harmed? But anyway, going down a rabbit trail here.
Okay, so like I mentioned, like there's a lot of things that we wouldn't do without a professional, even though we could probably figure it out. Do you want to expound on that?
Yeah, I think the best example I have is I have a really good friend who I won't mention any names, but and ironically, he does have a broker's license, real estate broker's license, even though he doesn't practice real estate.
And he still uses you for all of his real estate.
Yeah, because he doesn't want to deal with it.
Yeah, because he knows it's a lot. There's a lot that goes into it. It's a pain in the butt to get a real estate.
And that's actually a great example. He has an active broker's license, but he hires someone who does it every single day to do it for him, and he's fine paying me because he knows it'll go smoothly. But my example using him is that I think he's been in 3 court cases throughout his career. For different varying reasons. He never did anything wrong, but he had to defend himself, or he had to go after someone who had wronged him. But anyway, he's got time and he's got the money, and he's incredibly intelligent. And so instead of hiring an attorney, he filed the briefs himself. He went to court himself. He represented himself, and he won 3 different court cases by himself. And so that's a perfect example. It's like you can buy and sell your house by yourself. I mean, people have been doing it for years. That's always been part of the deal, right? Some people just want to do it themselves. But like whenever we ended up in a lawsuit over our short-term rental, I was not about to try to navigate the Nacogdoches court system and take a chance of losing that case that we absolutely had to win. So we went and hired a local professional who knew that system, and and we won our case very, very easily. It was so worth the money to hire a professional to take that on. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, can you do it yourself? Absolutely. There's some people that absolutely do not need a broker or a real estate agent. The vast majority of people are going to want to just say like, I know I can do this, but I want someone that does it every single day to protect me and make sure that this goes smoothly.
So when you're talking to agents, because like I said, there's a lot of people that are freaking out right now because they just don't understand that like what's happening isn't really changing much. What would your what's the word? What would your advice be to agents that are kind of freaking out right now?
Well, I mean, I think first thing, take a deep breath. Okay. And I think the other thing is like things are always changing. Yeah, even things in the real estate, leave the commission thing alone, go back before the lawsuit. Things are always changing in this industry, right? I mean, we didn't have iBuyers a few years ago.
What's an iBuyer? I don't even know what that is.
That's like people that buy your house directly online, like Open Door and things like that. They just pay cash for your house, and then you go buy the next house.
Is there one that starts with red?
You want Redfin?
Redfin, is that one of those?
I don't think they don't really specialize in that.
Oh, okay.
But things are always changing, right? I mean, go back 20 years ago, Zillow wasn't selling leads, right? And now they sell leads for buyers. I mean, like there's always things that are changing, so this is going to be another change. We're going to have to figure it out. But
what do you think about the people saying that like AI can do what you do and your real estate agents aren't going to be needed anymore because of AI? Because I think that's so funny to me because I see what happens. Like I said, I have a lot of friends that are real estate agents and brokers. I'm married to a broker. I've gotten to see the back view, I guess, like behind the scenes for a while. People are sitting in my chair and I get to listen to all these conversations on speakerphone of like them negotiating with other people and talking about different problems or things that they're doing that their buyer or seller is never even going to hear about because they're dealing with it and fixing it before the stress even has to get to the buyer or seller, right?
Yeah.
So how could AI possibly do all of that? I
mean, the short answer is I don't think they can. I mean, are there agents out there that don't do much for their commission? Yeah, they are, but they always struggle. And I always tell all the agents that come on with us that we train, it's like if you work hard and do the right thing and answer your phone, you're going to be fine. Like there's always going to be clients for you because there are bad agents out there and they just don't last.
Yeah.
But like for example, whenever I take on a listing, I go to the house, I walk the property with the owner. I make a list of things that they need to do before they list the house to make sure that it will sell for the best or for the highest amount. And I put that list in priority, like let's say 1 through 10. And if they don't have money to do all 10 things, then we need to start at 1 and work your way down until you can't do anything else, right? So how is AI going to do that? Because again, my job really is to prevent issues from coming up. If you have
how is AI supposed to look at a property and
that's what I'm saying.
Oh, you need to fix this or you need to do that. Like it can't do that for you.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is and I've had people say this like, wow, that was just the smoothest real estate transaction I've ever had. I was like, yeah, that's my job. My job is to prevent these bad things that I've seen happen before from happening. So if you had a smooth transaction, then it means you probably had a pretty good agent guiding you. Because again, this is what we do every day. I don't do what, you do every day. I don't, do other jobs every single day. This is what I do every single day, day in and day out. So
yeah.
I'm a little passionate about that.
So what's really funny is one of the reasons I was so hesitant to get my license for so many years is because I saw how much work it was on the back end. And I was just like, yeah, I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to answer my phone at 8:00 at night. My clients know my phone notifications are off by that time. Like, I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to do these things. And now I'm sitting here going, I mean, maybe I could do it. I could do it a little bit here.
Can I say something?
Sure.
let's go back 5 or 6 years when I was first, getting really busy in real estate, and you get so frustrated and so annoyed if I would answer my phone at the dinner table or answer a phone call at 10 o'clock at night. And you have your first buyer client and you're stepping away from the dinner table to answer the phone. And I'm just like, wow. Wow.
You know that saying, never say never? Mm-hmm. I feel like God is laughing at me and humbling me right now just a little bit. Like, hey.
Well, I think it's brought us closer together because now you understand me just a little bit more.
I do. I thought I understood before, and I understand a little bit better now. And I understand how everything, that's the thing that I think a lot of people don't understand is everything in real estate is so urgent. Like, it's like, it can't, there's a fire. Everything's a fire.
Can I say something?
What?
I mean, having a sense of urgency and like a fire, isn't that good for the consumer?
I think it's great for the consumer.
So, but let me ask you this. What drives that fire and that sense of urgency?
Getting a commission.
100%.
Getting paid.
It's the commission.
Well,
the
because
commission drives this.
If you're not getting paid, well, and let me also say this. There have been deals that Paul did where he showed people houses for like 2 years and drove all over the place and spent hundreds of hours. And when I say hundreds of hours, I am not exaggerating that. I can think of a few. And to make a small, one of his smaller commissions, right?
Yeah. Like I said, we all.
And then there are deals where he has someone and they're just like, they look at 2 houses, they pick the one they want. It's a smooth transaction. He gets through it. Maybe it's an all cash deal, or like he just did some 1031 exchanges for someone, and like it's real smooth, and he makes a nice commission and it goes smoothly and quickly. So when people are like, oh, real estate agents get paid too much, like, no, they don't get paid for 90% of the work they do most of the time until you decide to buy. And if you buy, there have been a lot of people where you've spent thousands of dollars on a listing and then they take it off the market and don't sell it. You don't get that money back, know? So I think that people have a very skewed opinion of what it takes to be a successful real estate agent, but also what you're actually getting paid for. I mean, the commercial deal that you just closed recently, you had a couple of them.
I was going to compare the two, right? So
yeah, let's do that. Go
so
with that.
I got paid 2 very nice commissions. I'm very, very happy for those. Now, both of those, because again, commercial, I spent thousands of dollars up front.
Lots of
marketing.
Thousands.
So I spent thousands of dollars with no guarantee of getting paid.
Yeah.
And then one of them, we were under contract for 9 months. Mm-hmm. So talking about endless meetings.
It's a stressful 9 months
for
me.
The listing was over an hour away, which is fine. That's normal for Houston, but I'm driving back and forth all the time. It looked like it was going to fall through several times during the 9 months. So it finally closed and I did get paid. I got paid well.
Praise God.
And then on the flip side, I had another commercial listing that we went under contract and closed in 3 weeks. And
but you had that one listed for over a year.
No, and
you had it listed. You took it off the market.
The full
then you put it back on.
The full story is I had that one listed for over 2 years. Honestly,
2 years. Okay.
But once we found the buyer, we were contract to close in 3 weeks. So we were on the market, on the open market for like 3 months, and then it took 9 months to close. The other one we were on the market for 2 years, and then we were 3 weeks from contract to close. But again, you're working all this time, working with doing all these showings, all this marketing, all this paperwork with no guarantee of getting paid at all.
Yeah.
So
people say that realtors get paid too much, but you don't have any. Listen, I have seen almost every type of job being a hairstylist for almost 20 years. And the people that work the hardest, that I see work the hardest, are the brokers and the agents that are in my chair. And I can see it, and they work so hard for their clients. So even though I'm brand new, haven't really closed anything yet, like this is a new thing for me, I've seen the hard work that it takes. So when people start talking crap about the real estate industry, it just really gets me fired up, because I'm like, you have no idea. Because if you've worked with a good agent, you don't see all the stress and the trauma that happens, because they don't show you. They take care of it for you, and they keep you from having that stress. So there's my little soapbox for that.
100%.
Don't you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard. I mean, it might not be as hard as being a high school student or teacher. I mean, because you used to do that, but it's a different hard.
It's a different kind of hard, I think, on that. Yep.
Yeah. So basically, the settlement basically just means there's no transparency anymore with commission, and you have to do the paperwork up front before you can see a house. That does not mean that sellers are not going to be paying commissions. So I don't know where people got that idea, but any decent agent is going to advise their seller as a listing agent to still offer some kind of commission to the buyer's agent. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I mean, and I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity in this. And so, and another way to look at this is like, especially the market hasn't been super hot right now. So I don't know of any seller that wouldn't be happy to pay a 3% commission to a buyer's agent to get their house sold right now, you know? Yeah. And just I won't name names per se, but there was a builder when the market got super hot 2 years ago, and there was a lot of sellers when the market got super hot 2 years ago that stopped paying commission. So there's a builder that actually paid no commission when the market got super, super hot. Now, of course, they came crawling back when the market slowed down.
You're talking about.
And then on the flip side, I will say the name of this one. There's a builder called D.R. Horton, and I get emails from them every single day, and they're not paying 3%. They're paying 4% or 5% or 6%. Like, so why are they doing that? Why are they offering?
Because they want you to bring them a buyer.
Yeah. And guess what?
They're paying for you to bring them a buyer. And that's what anybody that's selling anything does, something to pay for advertisement. That's just what you do. When you're going to sell a car, you usually pay to advertise that sales, right? Yeah. Like anything that you're going to sell, you usually pay for some kind of advertising.
Yeah, totally. But no matter whether the market is up or down, D.R. Horton sells houses. They always just sell houses, and they have a good product. And they have good customer service,
and they have a good relationship with their clients and the agents that they work with.
Yeah. And so I would say, if I had a message to sellers, because all this is going to, if the settlement goes through, it's all going to go into effect in July. But what you should do as a seller is, instead of looking at this like, oh, I don't have to pay a buyer's agent anymore, because first of all, you never did have to pay a buyer's agent. But since that perception is kind of getting clouded, I would advertise to everyone, hey, I'm paying a full commission on my house. And guess what? You'll have people lined up to show your house and sell your house.
Just disclosure, you can advertise that anywhere except the MLS now, because the MLS does not want to be transparent anymore, evidently.
So that's what makes no sense. Yeah. You can't advertise it on the MLS, but you can advertise it anywhere else. And you're going to have buyer's agents calling your listing agent and saying, hey, what are you offering on this? Just like we do in commercial.
Yeah.
But again, as a seller, I would be screaming from the rooftop, full commission right here. Bring your buyers. So you will stand out.
Just some clarity for agents, because obviously I'm new. So I just want to make sure. So there's a lot of rules from the different governing bodies like TREC and such, of like how our advertisement has to be. So you're saying that if I posted on social media the MLS link to a property I was selling, and in the description of the Facebook post or the Instagram post, I could put offering full commission or offering 3% commission to buyer's agent.
I did not say that.
But
I said if I was the seller, I would be screaming from the rooftop, I'm paying a full commission to anyone who can bring me a buyer, happy to pay it, and your house will stand out.
No, but I'm saying Can
I just say, no one knows at this point, because the settlement hasn't been approved, and I'm going on the record here, so I don't want to stick my foot in my mouth. So I don't even know at this point. I'm just saying that the ruling says it can't be advertised on the MLS.
Sounds like that's what it's saying.
Possibly. I'm going to give a very non-committal non-answer to that.
Okay. So, yep. Well, that's Paul's non-committal non-answer on that. So moving forward. So like I said, there's a lot of people that are like freaking out. There's a lot of agents that are like, I'm getting out of real estate. I don't want to deal with this crap. Guys, really, especially if you have any kind of faith in God and you're a Christian, you shouldn't be stressed about this, because everything's always changing in every industry. I mean, I've been in the hair industry for 20 years almost. And let me tell you how many times there have been like so many people out there like, oh, this is happening. It's the end of our industry. It's the end of this. And this is changing. And like, it happens in every industry. There's always changes. There's always regulations that change. There's different guidelines that change. So I would say stand on your faith and have faith in yourself and just know that you can adapt. It's not that big of a deal. We're all adaptable, right?
Well, I think it's just education. I mean, I think you want to have someone that you have that has a positive outlook, that, is staying educated, because there are going to be some changes. And, we're always trying to figure out what's the best way to move forward with this new information.
And having systems in place from a broker, like having a broker that has systems in place and that can like walk alongside and hold your hand and explain and teach and help you figure out that. I think that's probably the most important thing. I'm grateful that I have you and you can't hide from me.
And I'll just say for JLA too, like our principal broker, John, he's already had multiple Zoom calls for the entire company.
Yeah. And those have been great. They've been very there's lots of clarity in those.
Yeah. So you have a broker that's just being proactive, and he's kind of saying the same thing. It's just like, everybody needs to calm down. People are still going to buy and sell, like I said earlier, there's always been for sale by owners. There always will be. Some people can and want to do that. That's great. A lot of people say, forget that. I don't want to deal with this mess by myself. There's going to be some sellers that are going to refuse to pay a commission. And there always has been, and I had a listing appointment a couple weeks ago where a seller asked me if I would sell the listing for 1.5%.
And you said no, correct?
And when I was like, you mean 1.5% for me and 3% for the buyer's agent? And he said, no, 1.5% total. And I just said, I appreciate the offer, but I just don't think this is for me. I wish you all the best. But that happens to us every single day.
I think up until this point, people thought that there was no negotiation, and that's what the problem was. Well,
I mean, I think the average person doesn't really understand how commissions in real estate work for the most part anyway, because again, they don't do it every single day.
Do you want to explain it? Because I was fascinated by this once I took my classes.
Oh, well, I'll let you explain that. My point is that it's always been negotiable. I mean, I've taken, depending on the situation, like I mean, probably shouldn't advertise this too much, but I typically take on like one kind of pro bono listing a year where there's been a death in the family or a nasty divorce or something's going on. Yeah. And I take it for less than full commission because they need help and they're about to get foreclosed on.
Yeah.
And so we've always had that power. I look at the MLS every single day. I've seen 2% offered to a buyer's agent. I see 2.5% offered to a buyer's agent. The vast majority of them have 3%, but you can't tell me that you can't tell me it's required to offer 3% to a buyer's agent when I'm seeing all these different numbers on the MLS.
Now, so one of the reasons that this settlement is happening though, is because some of the bigger brokerages were requiring or telling their agents that they could not negotiate, and they had to tell their sellers that they had to offer the 3 and they had to do 6 total, right?
So that's a question, right?
Yes.
All right. I'm not going to answer that question. I'm just going to let the question stand because I'm not going to go on the record. But I think it's
hold on, time out. Can you guys tell that Paul was once considering being a politician and working in DC? Because that was a political answer right there.
I think it's a very valid question, but I do not want to get a notice from a lawsuit in my mailbox. So I'm not going to answer that.
Okay. Well, I'm saying is
very valid question.
Well, my point to that question is a standard practice type of for any industry to be competitive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Standard pricing kind of happens in different areas. So for instance, if you go to New Caney, Texas, there's going to be and I'm going to use hairdressers for this point. Okay. Mm-hmm. There's going to be an average price of a haircut, right? So to be competitive, hairdressers are going to price themselves around that average price. If you go to the Woodlands, it might be $40 more, but in that area, you're just going to know you're going to pay a little bit more. If you go to the Heights, you're going to know you might pay a little bit more there. So I find it interesting that they think that by taking the commission off of the MLS, they're going to prevent the competitive pricing to go away. They're going to basically say, well, now nobody knows what they're going to get paid. So nobody can, there's no price fixing in that sense. But there's still going to be competitive pricing, especially if you can post the pricing somewhere else. People are going to have an idea of what's happening, right?
Yeah, and that's the kind of joke of it, because again, on MLS, let's say you want to list your house, you have several different options, right? There's I had buyers on a couple of properties last year where the seller did this this flat fee listing where they pay like $500 total to the seller, right? I'm sorry, the seller pays $500 to the agent to list the property for them on the MLS. And then once you go on the MLS, it just says, contact the seller. Here's the seller's phone number. And so the agent does nothing. They throw it up on the MLS. They collect $500 at closing, and then they pay the 3% to the buyer's agent. So that's the flat fee model. It's, again, no service whatsoever. You're basically doing everything yourself. You just want to put it up on MLS. So you've got that. And then you've got, you've got everything in between. I know some agents that charge like 7 or 8%.
Yeah, and you can do that. Like I'm not saying I would do this, but if somebody came to me and they were like, "Hey, I want you to list this like $4 million property," I would have to consider I'm probably going to spend 20 grand advertising that to get it sold, because those property, I would have to think, okay, I'm going to come out of pocket that before I ever get paid. And then I might not ever get paid. So there's a lot more that goes into something like that, right?
Yeah. And like I said, the commercial listings are the perfect example. So the commercial listings, you pay a lot up front to get them listed. You pay a ton for the photos. You pay a ton for the signs. You're out of pocket all that up front, and you have no guarantee of getting it back. And again, the one it took me over 2 years to get paid back. So
do you know around off the top of your head how much you paid in advertisements for that? I'm just curious. You do?
Yeah.
You want to share it or no?
Over the 2 years?
Yeah.
15 grand.
Yeah. So when people say that and then they see like what you got paid, which you don't have to share that if you don't want to. Like, yeah. So yeah, you might have gotten a really big commission, but 15 grand of that commission was just being reimbursed for what you had already spent. I think people don't realize that.
Yeah. $7,500 a year is what I paid up front.
I did not realize it was that high. All right.
Yep.
So do you have any final thoughts on all of this? And also I'd like to add, normally we don't like talk about this kind of stuff, but we felt like it was very valid. And obviously I wanted to share that I got my license and,
Yeah, it's just all over the news. It's
everywhere right now. And so...
And the funny thing is, it's going to fall out of the news because none of this is going to take place until July. So I think like the real estate industry is getting a ton of hate right now because it's the trendy thing to do right now. But again, you want my final thoughts on it?
Unless you do you feel like we missed anything? Because we didn't really we kind of wung. I don't know. That's not a word. We winged this. Like I just kind of came on and asked you questions because I had a lot of questions and I was surprised talking to other people. I mean, yeah, I was just surprised at how many people didn't really understand how it all worked.
So we were going to talk about how real estate commissions work because you just talked to someone that thought that when they bought a house, they had to pay their realtor and that's just the way it's always been,
Yeah. And I was like, no, if you buy a house, you're not paying me. The other person's paying me. When you sell, you'll pay me and the buyer. And they were like,
do you want me to go through my listing presentation real quick? Like what I actually say to a seller when I sit down with them?
Sure. Okay. So show us your secrets.
Okay. So after we walk the house and I give them the list of like, hey, you need to fix this, this, and this, and this order as much as you can before we list. Then when we sit down, we go over the listing agreement. And again, I think every good real estate agent does this exact same thing. Mm-hmm. But I say, look, this is your total commission. This is what you're going to pay. My fee is 3%. For the 3%, I do these 12 things for you, from photos to a 3D walkthrough to,
and you pay for all of that up front.
And everything's paid up front. You don't pay me anything unless the listing closes.
So if they take it off the market and you've put $5,000 into it, you don't get reimbursed.
Yep. That's the way. Now, some agents do charge a fee up front to cover that.
I feel like that would make sense.
Well, but I don't do that, but that's just my model. And look, I'm pretty good at what I do. So most of the time I do sell the property and get my money back. But that's my guarantee to a seller too. Like if I'm putting all my own money into this up front and not going to get paid back, I'm going to work my tail off to get it sold. I'm not going to be screwing around and just whatever, sitting back and waiting for an offer, So, but part of that 6%, like I get paid, my fee is 3% for all these things that I'm going to do. And then to make your house stand out, to attract the most buyers, because most buyers want to have an agent with them, then you should probably offer them 3%. You don't have to offer them 3%, but this is what we typically do. It's your choice. And then I leave that up to them.
So if you have a seller that's like, I don't want to pay the 3% to the buyer's agent, is that just it? You're just like, okay, whatever. Or do you explain to them why you think that's a bad idea?
No, I mean, I always explain, like, look, if it was my house, when I sold my properties, I offered 3%, and there's a reason why I do that. There's been times where, like a lot of times in commercial real estate, whatever the commission is, if it's less than 6%, then we just split it down the middle. I've done that before too. And if a buyer's agent's upset that they're only getting 2.5, then I say, I'm getting 2.5 as well. So, but just trying to, again, just being open, honest. It's always been negotiable. It will always be negotiable. Every situation is different. That's what's one of the great things about real estate is every house, every property, every deal is a little bit different. And that's what keeps it interesting and fun and competitive and stressful. But it's a great business to be a part of.
So your final thoughts on this then?
My final thoughts. I guess my biggest takeaway is, like I said before, you can't panic. I think sellers that are going to offer a decent commission to a buyer's agent, like we always have, are going to come out way ahead. If you don't want to offer any commission, you can do that. You can go for sale by owner. I mean, go for it. Good luck. People have always done that. You have that choice, and I wish you well. But real estate really hasn't changed much in about 100 years in the United States. The way we've done it, it's worked pretty well. I mean, owning a home is still the American dream. There's a reason for that. I mean, I think we're a great example is we really struggled to get into our first house.
But we did it.
But we did it. And,
can I add too, when we bought our first house, there's no way we could have come up with the extra money to pay the realtor if it would have been on us.
No, absolutely not.
We wouldn't have been able to buy.
We were scraping together a down payment. I think the seller had to help us with the closing costs. We barely made it in. Let me finish this thought.
I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So we barely got into our first house, and then we were there for 5 years. The house appreciated. We were able to turn it into our first rental house, and then we were able to sell it, make a nice tax-free profit, and then roll that into another property, start a business. I mean,
who paid the commission to the buyer's agent when we sold it?
No, we paid the commission.
Exactly. You kind of pay it forward as you get in.
But that's not my point. My point is that, we had the American dream. We barely got into that first house. It's a way to build wealth. It's a way to go on about improving your life. And what this seems to be doing is to possibly make this more and more difficult for people to achieve the American dream. And again, it's not about just owning a home. It's not about just owning that first home. It's what it leads to. And with the equity. And then you can take a home equity loan, or you can go turn it into a rental property, all the things that you can do from that first house. And that's the important thing in all of this that I don't want to get lost in the shuffle.
Off the record, do you think that any of these big companies like BlackRock and stuff like that are behind some of this? This is my conspiracy brain. Like, I feel like.
Well, I don't want to get suicided either. So.
Suicided? I haven't heard that term. Okay.
Do I think they're behind some of this?
Well, it seems like it will benefit them.
How deep down the rabbit hole do you want to go on this podcast?
Oh, I love going deep down the rabbit hole.
Is this the time or the place though?
I think it's always the time or the place to go down the rabbit hole, but.
Well, like I will just kind of repeat what I said. There's some people that seem to want to disrupt the American dream, and home ownership is, the big first step into making it into the middle class. And the middle class is a threat to where some people want this country to go, because the middle class is somewhat self-sufficient.
You can't say it, can you?
They're somewhat self-sufficient and they don't need government so much. And so, buying a home, being a homeowner has always been, that has been the American dream. So any attack on that, and there seems to be a huge attack on that right now, I would say, yeah, there's some people behind that, and that's an agenda. Yes.
Okay. Well, on that note, I'm going to end with, these things can be stressful. The state of the world at this time is kind of stressful. And so I would just say to hold on to your faith, turn off the news, stop listening to all the political mumbo jumbo crap that's out there that gets your blood boiling, and open up your Bible. And then you can have a positive outlook like I do.
Well, I will say the sun will come up tomorrow. People will always need to buy and sell houses, at least for the immediate future. And they're going to need people to help them. They're going to need people to help them do that they can trust. You know? And AI doesn't have a whole like a very high trust factor, I don't think, at this point.
No, and I don't really trust lawyers all that well either. So those are kind of your only I think your options in real estate for representation are basically lawyers, real estate agents, or yourself, right?
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
That's basically it. So
and
I'm not saying all lawyers, I'm just saying.
Well, an attorney's probably going to charge you a lot more than 3%, I would guess.
Because by the time they spend all those hours and bill you for the hours, and that's where you're going to be. So anyways, I would just say, hold on to your faith, pray about it. That's how I ended up with my license. I prayed about it a whole lot. And I think Paul won in his praying for God to make me decide to get my license. So
we won. We're a team now.
We are team.
You've always wanted to work with me, and now
I know.
Here we are.
I know. You just made me do it in what you do.
I didn't make you do anything.
I keep saying me getting my license was his Christmas present, by the way. Paul doesn't like presents. So
can I just say, was you getting your license a good idea or a bad idea?
I think it's going to be a good idea. And I think that me coming into this when the industry is going to be shook up a little bit is good, because I'm good at thinking on my toes and rolling with the punches.
Are you glad that you have your license, or are you not glad that you have your license?
I'm glad and excited and nervous and all the things. How's that?
So is life more exciting with your license or without your license?
It's a little bit more exciting with my license. Okay. I don't know that I needed it to be more exciting, but it's a little bit more exciting. And I am accepting new clients, and we are also accepting new agents. If you're an agent out there, or you know someone and they're looking for a brokerage that's going to hold their hand through all the things that are going on, give us a call, because that's what we do. So
that is what we do.
All right. Well, until next time, stay salty.
Thanks for listening to the Salty Life podcast. We appreciate you choosing to spend some time with us.
If you like what you've heard today, please like and share on your favorite social media.
And don't forget to click the subscribe button to hear new episodes of the Salty Life podcast.
Until next time, stay salty.